Hello and welcome to the next episode on the Cornerstone SMP server. I am super excited. We're now in 1.17. We got it all updated and I didn't see many problems, but yeah, we decided not to reset the server until 1.18. A lot of us kind of have some projects, me included, like this village, and I'm going to continue this village out. So I'm super excited. We got a lot of new blocks going on. Deep slate, calcite, tuff. Oh, I can't wait to actually build in those. All right, so let's talk 1.17 blocks real quick. So I've kind of been wandering around and grabbing stuff, as you can kind of see here. And let's talk a little bit. So deep slate, obviously that one's going to be the most common. And deep slate, just go down to diamond level. Well, diamond level as we know it previously. That's going to change in 1.18. But for now, just go down to 11 or 12, which whenever you like, and mine a little bit, and you'll eventually run into deep slate. And the cool thing is, there is so many different variants of deep slate. It's not even funny. I have one here. So these are all the different variety of deep slate you can get. Look at what we got. I mean, we got cobbled with all the variations. We got brick with all the variations. We got tile with all the variations. And then we got a polished with all the variations and a chiseled. And I think I'm even missing one here. Isn't there a cracked variant? Let's see here real quick. Do a little experiment. So yeah, take a look. So we can take deep slate brick, put it in a furnace, and end up with cracked. Now, if I'm not mistaken, is there a cracked version of the polished? No. It would be tile. Okay, so there's two that I didn't know about until I went into creative and just kind of started messing with the blocks. So you can get cracked versions of those two. I don't think... Let's just take a look here. I don't think you can get either of those. And chiseled, there's probably not going to be anything. So yes or no? Oh. So you can get a cracked version of the cobbled. What? Okay, that's just weird. And no polished. So... Okay, that was a little bit weird. So if you take cobbled and put it in the furnace, you'll end up with just the regular deep slate. And then there is no cracked version of the polished. Okay, well, that's a little weird. But anyway, so we got so much to work with, it's not even funny. So I went out mining and got a bunch of cobbled, and I think, yeah, I got a bunch of deep slate here. We're going to be messing with that stuff like no tomorrow. But let's take a look at some of the other stuff. So since we saw all the variants of the deep slate, let's take a look at all of the ores that you can get. So they changed the texture on every single ore, and they made a variant which is called deep slate of all these, which is really cool. And as you can kind of see here, deep slate diamond and deep slate lapis are really hard to get, and I don't even have the emerald version of it quite yet. But it does exist out there. So they didn't change the cave generation. So those things are kind of normal, but this was not too long. I got a lot of diamonds. So I have a feeling that it may be that every place you have a deep slate blob that it may double the diamonds. It just feels a little bit more than it used to, but they claim to have not changed anything. And so in order to get the new or not the cave generation, but the new generation of the ores, it's a cave and cliffs update without the caves and cliffs, but anyways, in order to get that new generation, I actually had to prune our chunks on the server because we've been at it for a while and a lot of people have explored. So what I did, and we can take a look, let's go in here and get away from this portal. So what I did is I pruned everything, actually we could probably get on the other side, but I pruned everything from -5120 to 5120 in all directions. And that allowed us to kind of go out here without, hunting around to actually get some of the new ore generations. Yeah, so we're right here on the extent, and I've actually done a tunnel, and Other people have done a tunnel and put actually down a beacon, but let's go take a look real quick at how the deep slate generates. So we're down here at y equals 11, and I actually mined this whole thing out of deep slate. Didn't go too far to actually find it, so that actually was pretty good. And then the second deep slate blob that I ran into is absolutely crazy. So I've been mining this thing for over 3 days. You can kind of see that it goes back this way. It went up into this massive thing here. Let's see, where was that other branch? Kind of down in here, up and around. Over here, and I've got lost in this place so many times it's not even funny. I know there's another cave, maybe over... See, I'm already lost. Up there. You see it now? So then the blob continued up here, and I'm still working on this blob, but mined out that way, and then look at this. Goes down, goes around, up through here. I've dug all this out, mind you, and there's still some stuff around. Up around here. It's just absolutely insane how big this blob is. So I've found kind of all of the ores in here and different variations. And this is just kind of where I've actually been digging out. All right, real quick. The one thing that I ran into is that if you were to take a silk touch, which is kind of the pick that I've been just running around with, you actually end up with the deep slate. So I was around here mining around. You can't do anything with the deep slate itself. You can't put it in a furnace, and you can't put it in the stone cutter. You have to have a fortune in order to get the cobbled. And then with the cobbled, then you can put it in a stone cutter and get all those variants. I mined a lot of deep slate, and I guess I'm gonna have to figure out stuff for paths and whatnot, but be conscious of that, because it kind of drove me nuts that you couldn't do anything with the deep slate. All right, let's talk amethyst. Amethyst is kind of hard to find, but you just wander around enough. This particular one was at y equals 16. And I just kind of wandered around. I think there's a cave. Yeah, the cave system up there. So it just kind of generate randomly. So let's take a look at this. So there's the block of amethyst that you can get. And let's do this. So with a silk touch, you can get it. And with a fortune, you can get it. It doesn't really matter which one you use. But you see these nodes here? If you try to mine that, you will not get that back. That's actually where the crystals grow, and you can't just pick that up and take it anywhere. So you have to grow the crystals in place. So you can kind of see here that they actually grow on all sides of the block. So you might want to mine it out, and that way you can actually use the all sides. And those are in amethyst cluster, large, medium, and small. So depending on how long you actually let them grow, you can actually get them. Seems like all of these are kind of small right now. And the cool thing is on the outside of this, if we go back to my inventory, you'll find a layer of calcite just outside of this. And then outside of that, you'll find the smooth basalt. That's actually going to be a cool block too. Yeah, so that's actually going to be a fun one, but really kind of hard to find. And then creepers started dropping in here and started blowing it up. So be careful of that, because once those are gone, you can't get them back. You have to go find another amethyst. Here's something that I just learned. So I've been in here probably using a silk touch on here. And when you use a silk touch on the amethyst, you end up getting a amethyst bud. All right, so if you find a cluster that, and the only way I can tell is over on the right-hand side about middle. So this one's a large amethyst bud. But here we have a cluster, so you don't want to silk touch it, but use fortune on it. And you end up with shards. So this is very useful. I actually didn't know about this one until I actually read about it. All right, let's talk copper. So in order to do copper, you're going to need to use fortune on it. And from what I understand, if you use a fortune 3, you can get up to 12 of the raw copper off of a block. So smelt that down and you actually end up with copper ingots. And then once you get 9 copper ingots, you can actually turn that into a block. So the other thing you can actually do is a lightning rod with 3 of them. So that's actually really cool. So let's take that. And then once you get the block, you can actually put that in the stone cutter and get a cut version of all of them. So that's kind of cool. And then these actually weather in, what is it? So this one and 3 different other variants. So it's actually going to be really cool working with this. It's just right now a little bit hard to get to. I'm actually going to try to experiment with kind of like drown farms. So drowns actually drop, I do believe, the copper ingots now, but I've got to mess around with that, so don't hold me to that one. So now, if we take some amethyst shards and combine it with 2 pieces of copper here, you can get the spyglass, and this is an interesting one if you've never used Optifine. So Optifine, has the zoom feature, but you can actually do that in game with the spyglass. And this one, kind of get a little frame, and from what I understand, if you do F1 and then look at it, then you don't get that frame around it. So there's the frame, and that was without the frame. So I thought that was pretty cool. And this one, so there's the Optifine one, and this one actually looks like it's more of a zoom. So pretty cool. So I don't know how useful that one is, but it's a cute little feature that they added. So you know how I was saying on the outside of the amethyst, you actually get calcite and then smooth basalt. There is a way of actually making smooth basalt from regular basalt, which I found really cool. So you can smelt down just regular basalt and end up with the smooth basalt. So that's going to be really cool because this is going to be a fun block to play with. And I'm glad that that's a little bit more renewable than trying to hunt down an amethyst node. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Next, let's talk about ores. So there's some new blocks in the game having to do with the ores. So if you take, basically you're out mining and you silk touch one of these, you'll end up getting the block. So if you were to use a fortune on it, you'll end up getting that. And what these are is the raw versions of copper, gold, and iron. Let me show you what you can do with those real quick. So that works on the regular one, but not the netherite. That still does the nuggets. And let's go over to a crafting table. So now take a look at this. You can now get blocks of raw copper, raw iron, and raw gold. All right, couple more blocks. Let's take a look here. So glow lichen. I think it's glow lichen. I've heard it said both ways. I found those in ravines, but basically you can find them in caves, but prominently, if you find a ravine that's underground and just look up at the walls, I actually found that quite easily. And then the glow ink sac. This one's really, really cool, but that can be found underwater, but it has to be dark in order for them to spawn. And that's the same goes with the axolotl. And that one can actually be put on item frames to make a glow or a sign, and the letters on the sign actually look really cool with this thing. I'm going to experiment more with that later on. Tuft. So Tuft was another one, like deepslate, just kind of randomly spawns. I found a little bit of it. It seems a little bit scarce, but not too terribly bad. So there's 2 that are kind of controversial for me. It's the moss block, which is supposed to be in the lush cave that doesn't exist. And it's the dripstone that's supposed to be in the dripstone cave, and that doesn't exist. So the moss block can be found in shipwrecks. And then from the moss block, I'll show you what we can actually get for that. And then the dripstone is actually going to be in mine shaft chests. I'm sorry. I'm going to back up on that. The dripstone is just randomly found. They said they can actually spawn in a ravine and stuff like that. But the one thing that it do not have, and that's the only place you can get it, is in the mine shaft, is the glowberries. And that's supposed to be in the lush cave also. So there's like 3 items here that just kind of, they're in spots that they don't belong. I don't know how I feel about that, but no biggie. But let's take a look at the moss block real quick. So once you get a moss block, it's really easy to multiply that. So basically just put it down, and there's some select blocks, but as long as you're doing it on grass, I think they said deep slate, dirt, doesn't really matter. Bone mill it, and you see what you get. So there's a lower percentage chance of getting the azalea, but what's really cool, and I'm going to use fortune on this. So fortune doesn't get you anything there, and you don't have to silk touch that, so apparently you actually get the flowering azalea. And then you can get these back, so... There, good. I'm glad it did that variant. So you can get one with the azaleas and then one that's just plain. And you see that you can't just keep bone milling in the middle. You kind of need to pull this up or do it off an edge, and that will actually get you some more stuff. So you can already see here, I almost have probably, I don't know, at least half a stack here of stuff. So that one's really easy. Once you get one, just bone mill it out for the actual block. And just spread it around your server mates if you're actually on, and then they can actually bone mill it themselves. Super duper easy to get. I really like that one. And these moss carpets, oh yeah. That's a whole new ball game right there. Do I have an area over here? Let's take a look at it real quick. Yeah, so I've got an area over here that I've kind of experimented with stuff like concrete, the wool, more concrete, and then this is the carpet wool. So let's put it down. Okay, so there's that one, and there's that one. So that's going to give us some height height differences. That's actually going to look really, really cool. And then here's the difference between the moss, concrete powder, and then the green carpet. Really cool. I like that. That's going to give us a lot more. All right, let's talk azalea trees. So once you get your moss block, lay it down, and of course bone mill. And I got lucky this time that I got both variants here. We can take those, and let's now plant both of these down. I'll do one here and do another one right here. And what we can do is bone meal that. And that becomes an azalea tree. You can bone meal that. So basically you get the same thing, no big difference. And the cool thing about this is you now have two different types of new leaves, which is actually kind of cool. So this is going to give us a little bit of color, which is cool. And then the other thing that's interesting about this is that if you look underneath, and of course I can't get to that, so let's go over here real quick for sake of time. And of course this one's empty. I should have known. But underneath that is rooted dirt. And I think that's going to give us a really cool different variation from actual dirt, just to mix it up a little bit. So you got coarse dirt, and now rooted dirt. That's going to give us a lot. But that one's really hard to get. So 117, these blocks are just really hard to get. 118, obviously these things are going to spawn above lush caves from what I understand. So that'll actually be a little bit more natural, but at least it's farmable. Just albeit a little bit hard, but that's really cool. All right, let's step into my 117 test zone here. Learn something really cool. So if you take the rooted dirt and bone mill it, you get the hanging root, which is really cool. And you can't use a hoe on it, but if you use shears, you end up with the hanging root. So the other thing I found out is if you actually hoe the rooted dirt, it converts it to dirt, but you actually get a hanging root. But those things are so hard to get, I wouldn't do that. One thing I should mention about the glow lichen is once you find it out and about, you can actually bone mill it, and you can see that it actually duplicates. And remember that you have to use shears in order to get these, because if you use anything like a silk touch, doesn't drop it. Now let's talk dripstone real quick. I kind of set this up real quick, and it actually worked pretty well. However, this is really slow. From what I understand is in order to go from like here to the next level, which is this one here, you kind of see my hitboxes, there's two here. So to go from here to here is 5 in-game days. That is a lot. So you can imagine a 1, 2, 3. And these, from what I understand, can have an 11 space difference in between the two. And then obviously once they meet up, they will no longer do anything. But what you can do is you can take that, and then now you have the dripstone, and then you can kind of continually place more. So once you get a couple blocks, this is actually able to kind of regenerate its stuff. But you can imagine if it's 5 in-game days, to go from just to grow one. Here's the fun part, is that in order to get a dripstone block, it takes 4 of these things. Ugh. God, and this is such an amazing block. I can totally see this block used for like a siding, but it's just going to take a lot. So I think early on it's going to be really hard to get, but once you kind of get into it, then you can kind of start harvesting this stuff. And this space here is a probably, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can probably maximize this and get a lot more out of it. But if you're not in the area, I've been AFK'd in order to get what I have here. And boy, this is really, really slow. But I look forward to this block. I just wish that in 117 is a little bit easier to get to. In 118, you'll have whole caves of this stuff that you could probably destroy. Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting one. So here's a fun thing about dripstone. If you put a water block above dripstone and the pointy dripstone and put a cauldron, you can actually get water out of it. And if you put lava, it'll actually make a renewable source of lava, and that is actually really cool. Instead of going, hunting, it's probably not really that hard to get lava, but at least this way you can actually farm it. So that is really cool. And here we go. So I was mining around, found this, and take a look. Got quite a few glowberries. So now we can actually mess around with glowberries. That's actually amazing. All right, found one more chest here, and take a look. So the first one we found 4, and then this one we found 5. So it's not too terrible to actually find those. All right, doing some more wandering around, find a third one here, and there was nothing in here, but look what I found. Dripstone. Glowberries. These are an interesting one. I've been messing around with these, and from what I understand is you can take a glowberry, and do I have an empty spot here? Sure, we'll do it right here. So you can take a glowberry once you've found them and place it on the top, and that'll get a vine. So every time this grows, from what I understand, it has a 1 in 9 chance to actually have, grow one and actually have berries on it. I AFK'd here, and none of these ended up with berries. But the good news is you can bone mill it. If I can get past these dripstones. So bone mill it, and hey, there's berries. And then you want to right-click on it as if you're using it, and that will give you more. So don't rely on this thing growing and actually, the 1 in 9 chance of actually it producing berries. You're going to have to bone mill it. But at least that's, an easy way of actually getting more of them. All right, there are actually a couple of items that I do not have yet, and one of them is the small drip leaf. That one can actually be found with a wandering trader, but I have not come across it yet. And the other one, which is completely not obtainable in 117 right now, is the spore blossom. So both the drip leaf and the spore blossom would normally be in the lush cave, but the spore blossom you just can't get. Like I said, drip leaf, gonna have to do wandering trader. And from what I understand, the wandering trader actually, there's a lot of different things you can get from that guy. Trying to think. It's probably some of the stuff that we found in chests prior to that, like the glowberries and stuff like that. But I haven't proven that one yet. So yeah, it's a shame. But when 118 comes out, we'll actually get all of those. Candles. Now here is a fun one. So what you need to do is get some beehives. You'll have to use shears on it in order to get the honeycomb. And if you combine it with string, you can end up with a candle. And the cool thing is once you get the candle, you can just combine it with any dye you want in order to get the colored variant of the candle. And then we should be able to place that down. And let's see, where do I have? Right there. Flint and steel. Okay, so I'm using Optifine, and there's probably some problems in there. So that is technically lit because you kind of saw the texture on the side, but for some reason the flame isn't going. So I don't know if that's a Minecraft problem or an Optifine problem. I'll figure it out in 1 second. All right, I'm in just plain 117 with no Optifine, and apparently the flame, they didn't quite get that into the game. But you saw that the texture changed, so you can kind of tell when it's lit or not. So there's default and then lit up. You can see the top kind of glows a little bit. So that's cool. I hope they get that flame fixed in the next one, because these are going to be really cool to kind of mess around with. All right, probably saved the best for last, but of course, it's the goat. So both goats can actually be found in the mountain biome. Named all these guys Billy. Oh, ironic. But it's pretty easy for, once you find a couple of them, is to grab some wheat, and all you have to do is give a couple of them. And what I've noticed is that their AI is a little bit weird, so... Oh, there we go. And look how adorable he is. Oh my dear lord. I love it. So the goats are pretty cool. And I don't know if I've come across a screaming one yet, but those guys tend to headbutt more. And watching these guys headbutt normal animals is quite hilarious. And last but not least is the axolotl. These come in 4 different colors, one of which is really rare, which I do believe is the blue one. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, these guys can be found anywhere under the ocean level, level 63, I think it was, in darkness. And these guys are just cute. And, oh, that's a little guy, and he's yellow. That's cute. So you can breed these, and it's a bucket of tropical fish, but I don't have that right now. And another complaint that I've seen a lot of people do is they make an aquarium with these, and they end up disappearing. So make sure that you get these guys named so they do not despawn. Yeah, so that would be, I would hate to go out, find a bunch of these guys, put them somewhere, and then in a little while longer they just despawn. That would be awful. So anyways, there you go. Well, it's absolutely amazing how long this actually took to get through. I had no clue that it would take me so long to kind of explain this stuff. And I'm still learning. I didn't even tell you half the stuff that you could probably do with this. Looking forward to the drip leaves. From what I understand, there's some really cool stuff we can do that. Parkour, of course, if you want to. But yeah. And I'm looking forward to actually creating stuff with every single one of these blocks. I love this update. I kind of wish that they had done the caves and cliffs all in one. I would have just waited until December or whenever it's going to come out and not had this one. I know a lot of people that just said they were going to kind of skip this one. We chose to not reset the server. I think that's probably a good call. I don't want to go 6 months and then have to reset it again, kind of like long-term worlds anyway. So yeah, this one's really cool. But anyways, if you're not subscribed yet, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this content, hit that like button. Until next time, see ya!